Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to find the heavy pressure that has long burdened your chest suddenly vanished. You no longer feel the urge to check if someone is pleased with you. No need to scrutinize a colleague's expression, and no longer wait for a nod of approval from those who don't truly understand your worth. This isn't about being indifferent or arrogant. It is the moment you realize you've spent half your life rehearsing for your own existence, instead of actually living it. We stifle our inner voice and sand down our rough edges just to fit into a mold society calls likable. But the price of those social smiles is the dilution of identity, a silent form of self-erasure. Every time you say yes while every cell in your body is screaming no, you bury a piece of your truth deep underground. That truth doesn't disappear. It turns into spiritual fatigue, the kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot heal. On the quest to reclaim the self at Stoic Journey, we don't sell cheap doses of motivation. Instead, we offer a space of stillness for you to reflect on the boundaries that have been violated. If you are tired of trying to fit into the world's expectations, stay here. By subscribing, sharing this with someone who is wearing themselves thin, or simply leaving a reflection in the comments. Sometimes just one honest word is how we begin our return. Stoic philosophy teaches that external approval can become a psychological drug. When you let the crowd's opinion shape your personal decisions, you inadvertently hand the pen of your life to someone else to write for you. And let's face reality. Even if you become the most perfect, gracious, and empathetic version of yourself, there will still be those who turn away. Approval is conditional and as fragile as clouds, while self-respect is a pedestal built from the consistency between your actions and internal values. So it is time to ask yourself, would you rather be hated for who you are, or loved for a role you are beginning to despise? Don't wait until your last breath to realize that the only home you need to return to is the stillness within your soul. A place with no spotlights, only the truth and you. The final question is, do you have the courage to let go of the fake applause to finally hear the roar of your own heart? Part 1. The trap of approval and the price of acting. Have you ever been exhausted? Not from working, but from the constant strain of trying to fit the expectations of others? This is the burnout of self-dishonesty, a type of spiritual fatigue that sets in when you realize you've worn a mask for so long that you've forgotten the sensation of breathing with your true face. Many people begin their day not by living, but by rehearsing, polishing their words to match the room they are in, and swallowing the truth in exchange for a hollow peace. Look at the small details. You check a social media post dozens of times, pruning every word to ensure no one is offended. Or you nod in a meeting while screaming in dissent internally. We call this kindness, tact, or knowing one's place. But through a Stoic lens, this is often a form of voluntary mental slavery. Approval functions like a drug. Every compliment is a hit that makes you feel valuable until someone frowns and the entire sandcastle crumbles. The price you pay isn't just time or energy. It is the dilution of identity. When your voice is shaped more by others' comfort than your own convictions, your essence becomes hollow. As Kierkegaard warned, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. Here is the deeper insight. Approval is not love. It is merely permission. And permission always has an expiration date and strings attached. You see this most clearly in those who strive to be the perfect child or the model employee by burying their true passions beneath the sound of applause. They receive the cheers, only to face a chilling void at night, knowing people love the role, not the person. To escape this trap, you need a practice as sharp as a blade. Reclaim the pen. Whenever you feel the urge to alter yourself to please someone, stop and ask, What part of myself am I trading to buy this smile? And is it worth it? Integrity doesn't demand that you shout the truth. Sometimes it just requires that you do not betray it. Real peace begins when your inner self stops fighting to be heard, when your external actions mirror what your heart believes. If you don't write your own story, the world will do it for you, and they will write it to serve their needs, not yours. Do not fear being misunderstood. It is better to be hated for who you truly are than loved for a stranger you are pretending to be. And then a strange moment will occur. As you step out of the spotlight of performance, the audience may thin out. But in that emptiness, the people who truly cherish your value will begin to appear, creating connections that need no script, no acting, only truth. Part 2. Stoic philosophy on inner freedom. When we speak of freedom, the mind often dreams of going anywhere or doing anything. But Stoic philosophy opens a different door, deeper and quieter. True freedom is when you no longer need anyone's admiration to define your worth. Epictetus warned of a silent slavery, not of iron chains, but of self-imprisoning habits. It's when you lower your tone to avoid offending, or edit your truth until it's bland enough for the crowd. Every time you compromise just for a nod of approval, you tighten another coil around your own autonomy. Observe a mundane moment. You walk into a meeting or a party and your first instinct is to read the room to adjust your mask. You stop asking, "What do I believe?" and switch to, "What do they want to hear?" At that exact second, inner freedom dissolves like salt in water. Stoicism doesn't teach you to be rude. It teaches you to be unshakable. Freedom means standing tall in your truth, even when the world doesn't understand, disagree, or even turns away. The prime example is when you dare to refuse a request that goes against your values. The initial guilt is just a remnant of your old slave self, while the peace that follows is the true taste of liberty. To cultivate this, the Stoics have a core exercise. Look directly at the worst-case scenario. Every day, take a moment of stillness and visualize. What if you are rejected, criticized, or misunderstood? What if you are no longer liked, no longer applauded, no longer invited into the crowd's inner circle? What is left of you? When you dare to follow that script to the end and realize that regardless of what they think, your integrity and character remain intact, fear loses its power. This isn't pessimism. It's training the mind so that public opinion cannot ambush you, ensuring no wave outside is strong enough to capsize your home from within. The most valuable perspective is this: the world doesn't need another likable copy. The world needs your authentic presence. True confidence doesn't come from speaking loudly or posing with power. It comes from alignment. When external actions accurately reflect internal values, with no leakage from acting. When you stop seeking shelter in the praise of others, you begin to build a home inside yourself. Once that home is sturdy, you will no longer have to beg for acceptance at any door. And this freedom cannot be taken away because it was never in their hands to begin with. But the moment you shed the mask and stand firm on your own feet, a new challenge will arise. What will you do when your inner stillness begins to make others uncomfortable? Part 3. The refusal reflex, transforming rejection into a navigational filter. Rejection often leaves a sharp cut in the mind, but the pain rarely stems from the event itself. It comes from the story you tell yourself about it. When a door slams shut, your fragile instinct whispers that you aren't good enough, that you've failed, or that you don't deserve to belong. But through a Stoic lens, rejection is not a sentence. It is a natural filter. It doesn't come to humiliate you. It comes to redirect you. If you aren't rejected from the places where you don't belong, how will you find the space to welcome what is truly compatible with your values? Sometimes, every no is a liberation from invisible chains, relationships that make you shrink, soul-crushing jobs, or rooms where you'd have to perform for a lifetime. Consider a real-world example. An artist repeatedly rejected by major galleries. In that isolation and sense of being abandoned, they are forced to stop chasing trends and return to exploring their unique identity. The world's rejection, in a way that is both harsh and fair, forces them to face their raw inner truth, until that unmistakable difference creates a position that no one can replace. Rejection, ultimately, is like pruning shears. It cuts away the cluttered leaves so the trunk of the self can grow tall and sturdy, no longer bending with the wind. Here is the most valuable perspective. Rejection doesn't kill you. It only kills the fake version of yourself you were trying to maintain. When you stop treating approval as oxygen, every refusal becomes a sign that you are standing outside the whirlpool of compromise. You don't need a nod from others to validate your existence. To transform rejection, practice a simple discipline: the 24-hour filter. When rejected, give yourself exactly 1 day of silence. No reaction, no excuses, no proving you are worthy. After 24 hours, ask directly, did this event take away a real value, or did it just hurt my illusory ego? You will find that most wounds are actually the collapse of an illusion. And when the illusion falls away, what remains is not shame, but freedom. You stop begging others to open doors because you are clear-eyed enough to choose which doors are worth entering. But when you no longer fear rejection, a new question begins to echo. No longer, will they choose me? But rather, do I have the courage to choose myself and write the next chapter without seeking permission? The answer lies in a very specific skill: boundaries. Part 4. Establishing boundaries and reclaiming the pen of life. Setting boundaries is often labeled as rude or selfish by those accustomed to control, but in reality, it is the highest declaration of self-respect. If you don't draw the lines for your soul, the world will walk over them. Not necessarily because they are malicious, but because they don't know where you begin and where you end. Reclaiming the pen means you decide to stop asking for permission to live your own life. You are no longer a draft edited by public opinion. You are the author of your personal choices. Each boundary you set is not a wall to isolate, but a gate protecting your peace, your time, and the precious energy you possess. Imagine a real-life scenario. Someone who consistently works overtime to the point of exhaustion, fearing their boss might judge them as lacking passion. One day, they decide to turn off their phone after 6 p.m., not to rebel, but to preserve their stillness. Initially, they tremble, as their mind is conditioned to live in the fear of being discarded. But what follows is often not punishment, but a quiet kind of respect. Colleagues begin to understand. This is a person of principle, unbendable, unmanipulatable. It is this consistency that repositions you in the eyes of others without needing a single word of boastfulness. The core value is this: boundaries are how you teach the world how to treat you. When you say no to unreasonable demands, you simultaneously say yes to your own integrity. The key practice here is the no explanation rule. When setting a limit, be brief and decisive. The more you explain, the more you subtly hand over the power to others to judge whether your boundary is reasonable. You don't need them to understand in order to do what is right for you. You only need to respect it yourself. Autonomy is not born from grand speeches. It is born in the moment you stand tall, look someone in the eye, deliver a refusal as clean as a blade, and then hold the silence that follows. When you grip the pen firmly, The ink flows to the beat of your heart, not the noise of the crowd. But from here, you must be careful. As you write this new chapter of freedom, your silence will become a weapon that makes those used to exploiting you wary. The final question is no longer, should I please them, but do I dare use this silence to purify my life? Or will I let someone else hold my hand to sign another contract of spiritual slavery? Part 5. The power of silence and proactive restraint. In a loud world that demands you have an opinion, a voice, and an explanation for every personal choice, silence is no longer an absence of sound. It becomes a resounding declaration of autonomy. We live in a defensive state, mistakenly believing that every decision, belief, or boundary needs to be understood and approved by others. But the bitter truth is this: every time you try to justify yourself, you are silently granting the other person the power to judge if your choice is valid. Silence, in the Stoic spirit, is how you take back that scepter of power. For your truth has no obligation to be shrunk or sanded down to fit anyone else's perception. True power lies in the moment you know you have said enough. The stance is clear. The boundary is set. Now, let action speak for you. This is proactive restraint, a revolutionary act in an age of showing off. Restraint is not weak suppression. It is the highest level of self-mastery, standing firm against petty friction, provocations, and invitations to argue without being pulled away by the will of others. When you choose not to react, you prove something cold and very real. You are no longer a puppet of external influence. Consider a common situation, a pointless argument at work or a few sarcastic comments on social media. Instinct will urge you to counterattack immediately to save your ego, but the person trained in restraint will only smile, then remain silent. Not because they lost, but because they understand this is not a battle worth fighting. That silence acts as a power filter. It shows that your energy is too precious to spend on something that yields no value. It is that need not prove quality that gives you a weight that flashy words can never create. The perspective to etch into your heart is this: justification is often the voice of insecurity, while silence is the form of repositioned strength. To practice this, use the unexplained pause method. When you make a major decision or set a boundary, state it concisely, decisively, and stop. Don't add a because. Don't rush to soften the truth with a string of reasons. The silence following your decision is the strongest proof that you have accepted yourself to the point where you no longer need anyone to sign off on it. Silence, in that sense, is a quiet rebellion against vanity. It disarms manipulators because they feed on your reaction. It protects your inner peace from the storm of public opinion because you stop giving the wind the right to blow into your house. When you stand firm in silence, you are no longer a fragile echo of the crowd, but a true presence, dense, solid, and unshakable. The final question is simply, do you have the fortitude to be misunderstood for a while, just to be absolutely honest with your inner voice? Because in the end, when the applause fades and the criticism grows weary, the only thing left is self-respect, the thing you protected with your own restraint. Will you let silence be your most powerful answer, or continue to dissipate your soul in explanations that will never be enough? Part 6. Returning to your own home. After weary journeys searching for validation from the outside world, there will come a moment when you suddenly realize the deepest sense of peace is not when an entire auditorium stands to applaud you, but when you can quietly walk into an empty room, look in the mirror, and know that today you did not betray yourself. Stoic philosophy is more than just dry discipline. It is an invitation to return home, a sturdy internal sanctuary where you no longer need to beg for shelter in anyone else's approval. We have spent too many years decorating the exterior to please the eyes of others, only to realize one day that what we lost was not time, but the authentic vibrancy beneath the mask. The most valuable perspective to internalize is this: the world does not need another easy echo. The world needs your steadfast presence. That presence may not be glamorous, and it may not please everyone, but it carries the weight of truth. You notice this clearly after a social conversation where you spoke all the correct, polite, and fitting words, only to walk away feeling hollow and exhausted. That is the sign you are far from home. Conversely, when you dare to give a firm refusal that aligns with your core values, despite the initial tension, you feel a surge of freedom rushing through your veins. That is the moment you step onto the threshold of autonomy. If you feel your heart skip a beat here, stay with Stoic Journey. Hit subscribe so we can continue to forge this inner strength every day, not with noise, but with the persistence of stone. The core value of returning home lies in the shift, from seeking permission to nurturing integrity. Approval is like a drug with an expiration date. It warms you for a moment and then leaves you dependent. Integrity, however, is an internal standard, unchanging no matter which way the wind blows. To practice this, create a small nightly ritual, the mirror reflection. Before closing the day, ask yourself just one thing. Today, did I live for my truth or for someone else's script? If the answer is truth, you have all the validation you need to sleep in peace. Self-acceptance is sometimes the most frightening thing because it strips away the excuses to keep performing. But it is also what liberates you most powerfully. You were not born to fit into anyone's mold. You were born to stand firm in your own truth. When you build an internal home from the bricks of values and principles, you will no longer fear the storms of